Today's episode of the Get Your Comic On podcast may contain mild spoilers for the movies, shows, comic books, and games that we're discussing. And, if you're lucky, there might be some PG-13 language. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey super friends, it's Neil and welcome to a brand new episode of the Get Your Comic On podcast. We are here fortnightly-ish to bring you a slice of film, TV and pop culture goodness from my spare room into your speakers. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to our most recent episode where we were talking about all things DC Studios. We had some really cool feedback on it. It was great to hear from you guys as to what you're excited to see. I am very excited to get into two very cool topics today, one of which is DC related again. The other is a Disney Plus show, which has just started this week. We're going to be diving into Alien Earth and the upcoming second season of Peacemaker. As always, I could not do this by myself. And so this episode, I am joined by the lovely George from Cinema Savvy. Hey.
Hello there.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. It feels very weird to be a guest on your channel. I'm very excited to be a guest on your channel. I'm going to have to add that immediately.
Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for the invitation. And the topic of discussion today is very exciting. When I got the text, I was like, yes, I'm on. Doesn't matter.
I have been on Cinema Savvy so many times. Like probably getting on for maybe 7-8 times. And we have never quite had a chance to do it the other way around. And, you know, I needed a bit of time to get used to StreamYard because you are the expert. But here we are. I'm in control of the tech. I can see you. I can hear you. We are recording. I think we're pretty good.
And you've already found things I can't do on here, which is great. So now I get to learn a few things as well.
That's what happens when I have time and I start playing with technology.
It's fun. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to find out.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk this one.
Yeah. So as I was saying, we're going to be talking about two brand new TV shows. First is Alien Earth, which you can stream the first 2 episodes now on Disney Plus. New episodes are rolling out every Wednesday. And then we are also going to dive into a non-spoiler review on season 2 of Peacemaker, which is coming to HBO Max in the US from August the 21st and will be on Sky and Now TV in the UK from August the 22nd. That is an 8-episode season rolling out weekly. James Gunn was just asked on Twitter, I saw literally just in the last few minutes, if it was going to be a 2-episode premiere or a binge drop. And he's like, no. You are getting an episode a week and you will enjoy it and you will be talking about it between every single episode. But we will get to that. First up, I wanted to talk about Alien Earth because this is a show that's really surprised me. I was really worried about it. I wasn't sure as a longtime fan of the franchise whether I was going to enjoy this show or not, but I got a chance to see 6 of the 8 episodes and was really pleasantly surprised by it. But I'm really interested in how you came into this because you were just telling me before we hit record that you didn't even watch a trailer. So you came into this utterly blind, right?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. So I'm a fan of the Alien films, and I think my response to this going to be an Alien show would have been different had it been 13 months ago before Romulus. Granted, This isn't linked to Romulus. It's the first, I guess we can call it Disney Alien film, as in since obviously Fox has been part of Disney Group, has been a great success for me. And it's something they took from streaming to put into cinemas, made for an incredible time at the cinema, and a film I'm very fond of, and I'm excited for that sequel. And then knowing that there's an Alien series being done in the background, I was like, oh, okay. They haven't really done Alien as TV before.
No.
I'm intrigued by this. It could work. It might not. There's such a simple premise to the Alien films at time. I did wonder, can you do Alien as a series? Can it last that long? And for reasons unknown, because me and you spoke about this, I hadn't seen the trailer, and we'll say the same thing for Peacemaker later. But I'm someone that tends to see trailers, right? Even TV spots for shows come on at the cinema these days.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I've been incredibly fortunate, and I've not seen a single trailer for this. I think I'd seen like 1 or 2 posters, but I hadn't even seen character posters. And I'll talk about an actor that I adore that's in the show, who I'm not going to be disappointed by. He's in it, and he's in a different role to what I thought he would be because he's a British comedy legend. But Yeah, going in blindsided. I want to add, it is the best way to experience films and TV, but I appreciate it is incredibly hard to go into shows and TV blind these days because
Yeah.
my interpretation of what an Alien show could be would be different. And within 10 minutes, I was firmly, I was in the zone within a minute, if I'm honest, for that show starting. But I was excited for it because I then heard the people that seen the first 6 episodes. I know you were at MCM when they did some really cool interactive stuff there. They did the premiere here, and there's a lot of people that were lucky to get invites for that one. I hadn't spoke to anybody about it. I had asked their thoughts, and then when the review started coming out, everything was suddenly, this show could be amazing. This show's going so well.
Right.
And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm going to wait until all 8 are done. So my traditional approach is I prefer weekly shows. But if I can watch something weekly, binge it maybe 6, 7 episodes in, and then wait a few days for finale, I'm always happy.
Yeah.
And I did think Alien I can do that for. I'd seen a few stills going around of Sid the Sloth from Ice Age. I was like, okay, what's going on?
That's kind of been unescapable.
Yeah. And then you text like, do I want to come on to again? It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to watch the first 2 episodes. I was like, I'm not going to wait. If I wait, someone's going to spoil it for me on Twitter. Because that does happen with shows. So
yeah.
I've had a really fun time getting ready for the series. And yeah, the first 2 episodes, I'm excited to know your experience because you had seen the marketing, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the trailer at all still. So I don't even know what they spoke about, what they haven't.
I had a really wild experience with this show because I got invited to go round that MCM activation, which was they'd built a crash site and there wasn't even any footage for the show. They were only showing a logo from it. So it was kind of crazy to walk around the crash site for the Maginaut. It was the Maginaut, which is the ship in the show, and know that something had escaped from it, but have seen nothing. Like literally, it was the case of the only thing they showed us was a xenomorph egg. And then they asked me about doing the junket for it as well, which is wild because we don't really get offered that many TV junkets. So that was a really cool opportunity. So then I obviously got to see the first 6 episodes. Then they invited me to the premiere, which often they won't do when you've seen it for another reason because they'd rather give the seat to someone that's not seen it yet. But they were so nice in bringing me down to the premiere that I got to go to that, which was at Barbican, which is an entire other podcast about brutalist architecture that I love because it's my favorite building in London. And then they invited me to the thing that I went to the week before last at the Natural History Museum, where I got to go and watch them unveil a xenomorph egg as part of their Life on Other Planets exhibition. So I have genuinely had a really wild experience with this show. But the marketing's been really interesting because there were so many teasers, and all of the kind of teasers were xenomorph. They didn't really reveal anything else. So there was a bunch of stuff, kind of like the last couple of Alien films. They released little prologues, which were to do with the characters that are on the ship. There was a lot of stuff to do with the cat, which you do get to see a very briefly in these episodes, but they kind of used the cat for some of the marketing, which ties back to the older shows and older movies. They didn't really reveal much of what the story was about until they finally released a trailer, which was only sort of 6 weeks out or so before premiere. So really the story of it has only come together in the last few weeks right leading up to the premiere. So people haven't really known a huge amount of what it was about other than vague bits about other corporations other than Weyland-Yutani and this idea of different species being involved as well as the xenomorph, which obviously is the classic from Alien. For anybody that's not seen this show yet, let me read you a synopsis. So in the year 2120, which is 2 years before the original Alien film, the Earth is governed by 5 corporations: Prodigy, Weyland-Yutani, Lynch, Dynamic, and Threshold. In this corporate era, cyborgs, which are humans with both biological and artificial parts, and synthetics, human robots with artificial intelligence, exist alongside humans. But the game is changed when the one-of-a-kind founder and CEO of Prodigy Corporation unlocks a new technological advancement, hybrids, which is humanoid robots infused with human consciousnesses. The first hybrid prototype, named Wendy, marks a new dawn in the race for immortality. After Weyland-Yutani's spaceship collides with Prodigy City, Wendy and the other hybrids encounter mysterious life forms more terrifying than anyone could have ever imagined. So that's the sort of lengthy version of the synopsis. I think up to the premiere being released, it was more of a set 2 years before Alien, a Wayland Yutani ship crashes into a city. Chaos ensues was about as much as they will kind of say. So they've kept it pretty secret. But it's an interesting storyline. I do wonder about the setting, though. Being only 2 years before Alien doesn't give them a huge amount of time to get to that part of the story, because there's so much in the show that we've never seen in any of the movies. Because obviously we've seen plenty of synthetics, but we've never seen... I don't think we've really seen a cyborg, and we definitely haven't seen a hybrid.
No, and I think these are some of the things that have actually drawn me to this as a project. So, you know what you want of an Alien film, right? You want to have a xenomorph, you want to have a crew, you want to have space, you want to have horror. How are we going to build up? Who's going to die? How are you going to do that? No, there's not xenomorph going off in case you can hear a neighbor's dog is shouting. This is very awkward timing. And for this show, for those 2 episodes, when you get, I don't want to call it the opening crawl because it's not, but I love it when you get like the old school text on screen. It's like, this is what's going on in the world. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, we're getting a bit more than just, the androids you've had before. What is this synthetic thing? And I think if I'm allowed to say already what the show's done in 2 episodes, I think this is already like successfully engineered itself as a science fiction series.
Yeah.
Aside from horror.
Yeah.
That some of the concepts they're doing with some of the lead characters, I actually think is quite admirable for a discussion on sci-fi. Just taking the idea of, let's take these sick, disabled, cancer children. We are doing spoilers, so I don't mind saying this. Let's take the bodies that will not last, and let's transfer them into these other, super speed, super strength. Let's just say not super soldiers, but they are children still. They're young.
Yeah, this is jumping around slightly, but just to interject, sorry. How well did the cast play that as well? Particularly Sydney Chandler. She is flipping brilliant at how she plays that. Sorry, please carry on.
No, because that's where I was going. The performance, because that could go wrong. If the way I've just said that could be a complete disaster, because you might have actors where they are playing adult actors, but no, you're meant to be playing 10, 11-year-old children, like people who haven't lived and people who now have bodies to do things they couldn't do. And how everyone is reactionary, I thought was incredible for 2 episodes worth. I'm going to add, and I think that could be its own sci-fi thing. Then you bring in the alien, the xenomorph, new species. I loved it, and I think because I didn't know what was in the marketing campaign, I think I've seen one poster of a xenomorph on top of like a chamber.
I was going to say, that's going to be what you've seen. That's like the most famous image.
Yeah, and I'd kind of just presumed that there'd be a ship with aliens on, and the aliens killed all the aliens and now going to kill the humans. So I'm clearly wrong on that, because we've got these creepy, weird new creatures also causing chaos on top of the city structure. And I love what they're doing with it. And it's a lot to say off 2 episodes. I'm a quarter of the way through. You've seen 3/4 of it. But it's left me in the position of the show where I'm going to be watching every week. And this is why I love shows that are every week, because yes, I could have waited, binged, and took this all in. But now I get the first episodes and I get to have a think, and I get to discuss with people, okay, what could come next? What can happen?
Yeah.
Are there actors who have been cast I don't know about? Are there other things to pop up? I'm blown away. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect it from an Alien show, because although I loved Romulus, I think there's only 3 good Alien films. And it's Alien, it's Aliens, and Romulus for me.
Yeah.
I don't like Alien 3. I don't like, was it Resurrection?
Yeah.
AVPs, I don't want to revisit them. Especially if I've got older, I'm just sat there like, it's actually no contest that the alien should devour the predators every single time. And I was just a bit like, oh, could it work as TV? Is it the typical Disney want to chuck a show on Disney Plus? No, this is like this is structured as TV. Because by bringing the ship crashing down to Earth, because I sat there like, when we meet the space crew, so I'm going backwards.
No.
When we meet the crew at the start, we get the typical alien table scene. There's that type of character. There's that type of character. There's this one. I was like, okay, these are the people we're going to chill with for a few episodes. I was like, they'll probably get to Earth in episode 5 or 6 out of 8. 10 minutes later, they're all dead. And I was like, oh, like, fair play. Because that has completely changed my concept of what I think the series will be. And to already have the alien, not taking your audience for granted, but everyone knows what the xenomorphs look like now. So you can already have it. You don't need a big grandiose reveal. Yeah. But then you get to play up to the cyborg. And I just think I'm shocked at how much I'm enjoying this from a sci-fi and horror perspective.
Yeah.
And this is coming from someone that isn't a typical horror fan, but as a fan of the Alien film series, when Alien is done right, and this sounds really pompous, so apologies to viewers if they dislike this. I think when Alien is done right, it is on par with some of people talk about Alien being the greatest horror film of all time. People talk about Aliens being one of the best sci-fi films ever made. When it's at its best, there are a few things like it for me, and I don't think there's been enough of them. And so far, Earth has got everything going for it.
Yeah. And I think that's down to the fact that you've got Noah Hawley as the showrunner, executive producer. So if that's not a name that people are familiar with, Noah Hawley is the mind behind the Fargo series, taking another movie that was completely standalone that no one thought could ever become anything more and turning it into a multi-season, hugely successful award-winning show. He's also the mind behind Legion, which was the X-Men kind of adjacent TV series that lasted a couple of seasons a few years ago. He is kind of adept at taking really big IP and going, do you know what? I can turn that into a TV show. I don't know how he does it, but he does it so well, and he can handle these ensemble casts. He has this really interesting way of breaking down the human condition and making human drama out of something as sci-fi and as horror as Alien. And so when I first started watching it, I actually thought I really connected with it similarly, as you were just saying, right from the outset. By the end of episode 1, I was sold on it completely. It took a little while through that episode to get me, but by the end it got me. And by the end of episode 2, I was like, absolutely, I'm beyond sold now. I need to see the rest of this straight away. But for some reason, I don't know why, but I thought it wasn't going to review very well. I just had this feeling that I was going to buy into it because I love sci-fi TV series and I love Alien. But I felt like there might be some old school diehard Alien fans, probably not those like you and I that probably watched it for the first time when we were too young to watch it and were kind of traumatized by it and then just grown up loving it. But maybe some of the older audience who remember Alien when it was first in the cinema or grew up with it from around that time when it was more new, would maybe slightly reject the show and feel like it was too far away from what the movie was originally. But then I think, and I'm not going to spoil anything that happens kind of down the line, but the beginning of episode 1 is so Alien. Like so they were explaining at the premiere that they went and got the original blueprints for the Nostromo sets out of the archive, and the USCSS, which is really difficult to remember, I might add. As a Star Trek fan, you want to call every ship USS. So going UCUSS or however it is in Alien franchise is not natural. The Maginot, which is the ship, is actually pretty much to the millimeter a recreation of the Nostromo, which is why it looks so cool. But they were talking about how they wanted everything to be practical, and that was why they went and they got the blueprints out. And the first time you see the xenomorph, he basically looks like it's probably a man in a rubber suit on the back of a skateboard being pulled along the scene, because they were kind of homaging the way it was done back in '79. But I think what the show does and what Noah Hawley does is go, I can make an Alien movie if you want me to make an Alien movie. Like, I can do the horror, I can do like the sci-fi, creepy, gory, straight up Alien movie. However, what I can also do is tell you this really interesting story about what it means to be human, and just kind of play that off against all of the Alien stuff. But that's what made me wonder whether people would be able to get on board with that and be like, it's cool, I've got the xenomorph, I've got all of that cool stuff, I've got the Weyland-Yutani, but then I have this other stuff on top. Or whether people would be like, oh, it's just a sci-fi show that they've put an alien in it, so they can call it Alien. And so far, I've spoken to one person who said this feels like a generic sci-fi show that they've just put a xenomorph in. And everyone else I've spoken to has been like, this is awesome. This is my Alien that I remember, but with all this cool stuff on top of it.
For a franchise that has branched out with AVP multiple times, and I think I know we've got Predator coming out later this year, and I think bringing back AVP has probably been on Disney's agenda somewhere, and it feels in a really nice way, because they currently have a very successful Predator film and a sequel coming out. Yeah. There's a very successful Alien film and a sequel coming out.
Yeah.
There will be naturally discussions about, do you want to run another AVP series, which I would be very curious to see a film. For them to pick the director, that's up to them, because Noah Hawley's entered the chat, as you've rightfully mentioned. And as you guys said, it's because you can't just have an 8-episode series of an alien running around slashing, murdering people.
Yeah,
You need to
exactly.
bring in
Doesn't work,
the
does
other
it?
ideas.
Yeah.
And having even the adjacent siblings, one of which thinking his sister's dead the whole time but isn't, is his child. The Wendy stuff. Episode 1's called Neverland.
Yeah.
I loved all of that because
So
it
many
is.
Peter Pan references.
Yeah, and I was sat there like, but it's so right. Like it's where they take the children, like to never age, because there's a great sci-fi discussion within this, which is, you were children. Like I think one of the characters speaks about this, not used to having boobs, and then he's like, well, as a child you continue to grow, but now you can't grow, so you now have to be an adult. And it's like explaining that, and the children aren't reading it as children because they've got intelligence.
Yeah.
They're sort of taking that on board and trying to move forward in their life. And I think when it's put them in situations like seeing the creatures in episode 2, there's fear, there's scare, and you can see that in the adult performances. I love it.
Yeah.
I think they've done something I didn't think they'd be able to. And I'm a sucker for this sort of stuff. Love a bit of company politics in TV. So to get the Weyland-Yutani, I know Weyland-Yutani is such a core part of Alien films, but you know what? Not every single Alien thing needs to be Weyland-Yutani.
Yeah, exactly.
Which has now been proven of, hey, there's this world's youngest trillionaire who, this is the tech he set up and this is what he's going to be doing. And there's a company divide that they each have their own designated landing areas.
Yeah.
So there's so much more going on in the background. I think they've been able to find the right way to put it in TV. It's like when Star Wars became TV, right? Sorry to go on a tangent, but The Mandalorian nailed the episodic villain of the week. Not Saturday morning cartoon, but very much chapter 1, chapter 2.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to bring up the big A word, which this show has been compared to, Andor. This was we've done Star Wars before, we've done films and other shows. Now we're going to tell you a completely different story for adults, for Star Wars. Now, Star Wars is very different to Alien, but I've seen so many Andor comparisons to this.
Yeah.
And I'm also sat there with what I said about the Nostromo. I'm like, yeah, like, go on the 1970s, great big buttons in sci-fi, mustaches, like costumes. Yes. I love that era of filmmaking. And I love it when modern shows revisit that. And Andor obviously did it because they needed to, because obviously Andor's before Rogue One, which is before the original. Yep. And like with this is set 2 years before Alien. So you can't have such a drastic disapprobation of the space stuff. You can do that with the Earth stuff. And I would never have cared about seeing an Alien series set on Earth, if I'm honest. But now we've seen the Earth, we've seen the, not dystopia, but we've seen the modern Earth within this. Great. It just doesn't look like the Earth we're living in, just with a few more skyscrapers. It looks like there is a lived-in universe.
Yeah.
There are classes, there are jobs, there are, technologies. It feels like something original within sci-fi. And I'll be totally honest, and I am a big fan of Romulus. There are some valid criticisms of that film. It's too much like an Alien reboot or stuff like that. I don't mind that, but I'm so glad Alien Earth just isn't retreading what Alien has done. It feels so new. Yeah. And I'm excited to see where they go with it in this series and beyond, whether that be films or more TV.
Yeah, you get some really big cliffhangers in every episode I saw. Every episode has a moment at the end that is going to keep you hanging on for the next one. There's also a load of great really great needle drops at the end of episodes as well. Very alternative. There's lots of like Nine Inch Nails, Metallica, A Perfect Circle, I think, if I remember rightly. There's loads of really cool alt rock stuff that ends every episode that I'm like, oh, it's kind of, I like this. It feels like something that you might have done in the 90s or the early noughties, but I love it. Like, bring me that back. But everything about it just works so well, which is great to see, because so often you get kind of hyped for stuff, or you hope something's going to be great and it comes out and you're like, well, it was all right, it maybe didn't quite live up to everything I was expecting, I'd have done this slightly differently or this slightly differently. But I'm not feeling that with this show. I'm just like, I'm along for the ride. It may not stick the landing. There's 2 episodes that I have not seen, could be a really awful ending for all I know. But in terms of everything that I've seen, I'm like, no, I'm on board with all of this. I wanted to ask what you actually, nearly said something I probably wasn't supposed to say. I can't remember at this point how much you have seen of other creatures.
Okay, so I won't know the names. There is the
I don't know names either, actually, to be fair. That's something that I need to go back and see if everything has a name. I'm not sure that it does.
So I'm calling it like the inverted Bulbasaur, where there is something hanging off the ceiling and it's had a little tentacle stick out. So that's there. and we have this really creepy insect that has got into the necks of the 2 military soldiers.
Yes.
And as it sucks their blood, it sort of
Gets like,
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
That one
the
I
only
thought had a
ones I've
slightly
seen.
like Cloverfield look to it.
I've not seen Cloverfield, the first one, in a very long time. I've not seen the others, but it's like great. There's more extraterrestrial things, and they just don't look like xenomorphs. Like
No.
they're like, let's create something new and let's do that. And I'm just going to keep calling it Bulbasaur, whatever that thing is. I was sat like, there's going to be something with that. Like something's going to have to happen at some point in the future episodes. And what I'd like to add, what's adding to it is the fact that there's a ship crash landed in the skyscrapers on the planet. That adds stakes that are not even relevant in episode 2 yet. You know, when we go to that party and there's those upper class people.
That scene is so like just crazy.
You know exactly what's going to happen, and I think what they've done in this is, I don't want to say they made the xenomorph terrifying. I don't want to underestimate the genre of horror and an image of a creature we so well know across multiple decades of media. But to see it like killing everyone in a room by not hearing, not seeing it, doing it, and even at the end of episode 2. When the cyborg's like, oh, this is going to be your problem, not mine. It's afraid. It feeds off fear. And he turns around and the entire room is like just devastated, bodies, dismembered things. So I'm like, I don't think it's scary, and that's not a criticism. I was like, it's great to see the alien being in universe terrifying, and I don't think Romulus did that very well with the horror sequences, because we've not had an alien in an environment with so many victims. It adds a new dimension to it, which I'm excited to see what more I want to see. Obviously, it's the cliffhanger is it speared the brother off the side of the building so far.
Full of eggs, right?
Yes, it is.
And Wendy has just gone, I'm going to leave you here. I'm going to go get my brother. And then she just like drops down the hole and leaves the other guy in a room full of face hugger eggs.
Yeah. Very exciting, because I love seeing the face hugger eggs. Disgusting, terrifying creatures, but a big fan of them. That's just, I didn't think I'd be this excited. I thought for 2 episodes, with some shows, like, they're just warming up. They're in that. I can tell you this, 80% of showrunners would have ended episode 2 with the crew being killed off that ship that happened in the first 10 minutes of the first episode. That's what I kind of think. And I'm glad it hasn't. I'm glad it did, because I'll be totally honest. I don't think, not like I could have coped with another like alien in space killing a crew of people, but I don't think that would have worked.
It would have felt too much like a retread, wouldn't it? Like, we've been here before. You're not telling me anything. You're not showing me anything that I can't go and see by watching the movie that I've loved for 30 odd years. Yeah,
it's a different ball game on Earth, and they've justified, I think, it being called Alien Earth, bringing it to Earth.
Yeah.
I'm curious as of the tech battle. I'm excited. I'm excited for what comes next, and it's Wednesdays, right? I'm gonna have to make sure I don't go on Twitter, wake up, see another like famous animated character all over. Because I was sat there like, are people joking that Sid from Ice Age is in this? Like, I know, obviously, the first episode is like Peter Pan stuff. I'm like, wow, Disney's really like waving the catalog of we've got Alien now. Yeah. But it actually makes sense within story that it is a Neverland. It's an island away from civilization where these children are going to be put into their new lives. And I think, oh God, I've forgotten the name of the actor that's playing the
Samuel Blinken.
Loving him in this.
Yeah,
I think he's a lot of fun. He's quite believable. And obviously, I've mentioned Andor, Alex Lawther, who was Nemec in Andor, one of the best characters in that series. Great to see him in this. It's got, as you said, Sydney Chandler's been very good. I hadn't seen anything before. I'm really enjoying the cast so far.
Yeah.
I will just say, for anyone that is curious, the comedy legend I mentioned, Ade Edmondson. I don't know if this will be the right demographic, but The Young Ones is like a family classic for us of like comedy. So whenever Ade Edmondson pops up in something, it's a lot of fun for us. And
a very interesting role for him.
Yeah, he's like, so far for me, he kind of comes across like a butler, and like, I really hope he gets a bit more to do. I think he probably will.
Yeah, he does have a few bits and pieces to do across the season. Yeah,
he's kind of like, it looks like he's like his tidy up guy. Like something's going wrong, I need to tie this up. That's the vibe I've got so far, and I'd like to see him in a bit more. I don't need to see him do comedy. I just like to see like a comedian I liked when I was younger.
Yeah.
Doing a bit more drama. I think it was in episode 8 of Star Wars as well. Yeah, it was. It was Kylo Ren's like number 2. But yeah, if anyone's never seen The Young Ones, that's my comedy recommendation. One of the best British comedies.
it's a really, really like I've got IMDb open in front of me, and there isn't really a weak person in the entire ensemble. So you've got Sydney Chandler, who plays Wendy, who is kind of our lead, even though it's an ensemble cast. She's kind of the person that we learn about all of this new hybrid tech from, and she just plays this 10-year-old girl who had a terminal illness now in the body of an adult so well. Alex Lawther plays her brother, and they play it so well together as well. Like him having to get used to the fact that this is his sister, and she has his sister's memories, her personality, and in some case, like kind of her mannerisms as well, because it is her, but it doesn't look like her. It's not her body. Yet they play it so well. Essie Davis is one of the scientists who has created this technology. Is great. Samuel Blenkin, that you just mentioned, is outstanding. Like he is a force of nature in that role. Babu Sise, who plays Morrow, who is the cyborg, who is basically the only survivor of the crash, another great character, who's got a really interesting and tragic backstory, which I think plays out really well. And then all of the kids that are the Neverland kids. So Adarsh Gaurav, who plays Slightly, Irana James, who's Curly, Jonathan Ajayi, who's Smee. They're all so good. There's some really interesting subplots with some of them that you'll come to in the next couple of episodes, which really go to places that you don't expect. And it's interesting seeing them come around to the fact that they are adults and therefore they can do adult things, even though from a mentality kind of point of view, they are still kids. It's really interesting. But it's genuinely really well cast. I think the only one who, and I'm not going to say it's disappointing, the only one who I'm sort of surprised by is Timothy Oliphant. I figured out what his role was going to be from what I had seen of him in trailers because of his haircut. But he isn't in it as much as I thought he was going to be. And that's kind of the only sort of thing that people have said to me is, I was kind of expecting more Timothy Oliphant, and you will see more of him as the episodes go by, but you don't see as much of him in these first two as maybe you might expect for such a big name being in the show.
Yeah, I think that's something with me that when I caught on he was in it, obviously Timothy Oliphant's been so many great things. A question I was going to is not all we pop up in the last two a little bit more, but it seems like at the moment it's a very reserved character that I'm holding out to see more from. I'd like to see more from because there's clearly a story and a background there that needs to be developed. Because he is almost the guide point for Wendy, and I'd like to just know a little bit more about their relationship with one another and how that developed over time.
Yeah, well, then it's interesting because you've got these cyborgs, these synths, and then now these hybrids that are all different states of humanity, not humanity, AI, what kind of level of... I don't even know what the right words are. Like, what kind of autonomy and agency do they have, and therefore what rights do they have? You can get into a whole conversation about what rights do these synthetics have against what these hybrids have. I mean, these hybrids aren't human bodies, but they're human personalities inside them. But then, is that any different to a synthetic that can also exhibit a personality? It's quite fascinating. I don't know how far it will go into that. The other thing, of course, is I don't know how many seasons they're planning to run this for. I don't know if this is going to be a one-season only thing. I don't know if this is going to be around for a little while, if they've got more plans for it. I don't know. Probably depends on how well it does. But I would happily watch more based on where I'm at with it at the moment.
That's kind of... I'm like if you look at Fargo as a base, where I know it's anthology series. I've only seen the first season.
Same.
But I am sat there like, the way how Alien goes is they have to make more Alien films and stuff. But I would really hope that this is not an anthology. I think Alien would actually work really well now for that as an anthology series. But I would like to see, based off 2 episodes and how this wants to end. If this wants to end openly for a second season, I'm okay with that at the moment. If this wants to be a closed miniseries and they want to maybe revisit the concept of Alien or these corporations and take another story, put it there, I guess it will go on how it ends, which we'll obviously find out, I think, at the end of September.
Yes.
I'll take more. I think with the right budget, the right patience, the right writers and showrunners, absolutely. And I do think with Disney, we're in a really interesting predicament with streaming that obviously in America, this is on FX. UK, obviously, it's Disney Plus. Whilst they have cut down on streaming, they have not shut down streaming. If there is the right show or the right project, they will continue. Andor's an example, the best example. I know obviously Ahsoka's getting a second season. Loki got a second season. Like, they have done second seasons for some of their bigger things, but they also then haven't. They've had some miniseries, and I think with Alien, if there is a story, I want to nod my head for listeners that I think they would want to do more, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And I don't think it'd be something like, there's an alien egg left downstairs. But that's why I'm like, oh, an alien anthology series. But again, I like the concept of the company politics in this. So
yeah,
it's a great question, because I don't know if there's been conversations as in, sometimes in a press run, someone's like, is there a second season planned? I don't even think I've seen or read an article about anyone asking about a second season, which is also interesting. So I guess we'll see how viewership does. I'm sure Disney are very elated with their reviews. Yeah. And to Disney's credit, they do genuinely take reviews into account, I think, on these decisions for shows. Obviously, they take audience viewership into account, but Alien as an IP, that's also going to be taken into account, right? That this is only going to help Alien stock.
Yeah,
that if it nails the ending, I guess this is the trickiest thing about reviewing and talking about TV is like, we'll talk about more on Peacemaker. Yeah, like it's so hard to different conversation later, but like it kills me with Peacemaker with Rotten Tomatoes. Like Peacemaker season 2 scored this. I'm like, but it's 5 out of 8 episodes that scored that. Like they can't put that giant asterisk in when they need to. Yeah. And I know you've seen 6 out of 8 on Alien. That's 3/4 of a series. It's like reviewing the first hour and a half of a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, like you can't really give it a fair thing, but we can discuss it, which we are doing, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Even off this conversation, 2 days ago, I had no intention of watching this till like 6 weeks time. And yeah, I've sat here. I've like been able to like get everything out because I've spoken to nobody about this as well. I don't know how you felt holding in on 6 episodes, but it feels like a lovely thing to discuss. And it's so fresh in my mind as well.
Yeah. I find it really difficult reviewing TV now as well because I keep forcing myself to give star ratings to things that I've not seen a whole season of, and then it's like, well, what if it gets better in the end, or if it gets any worse?
This is it. It's like you have to like find a middle ground. It's tricky. Like I don't envy you being in that position. It's tricky to do.
Yeah.
But for me, the first 2 episodes, I'm in. I'll be telling people, get on it, on it weekly. People will be ruining this on Twitter. I can sense it already. There'll be a crazy kill or something outrageous happen. That's going to get meme-ified. I'm going to wake up one morning, go on my phone, and it's like there on Twitter. So I'm going to have to
say, without spoiling anything, just make sure you watch episode 5 as quickly as possible.
I'll have it done in the morning.
And all I will say is you can read my full review of the 6 episodes that I've seen. I said Alien Earth is an ambitious and largely successful reinvention that brings the franchise home to Earth without losing what makes it terrifying. Holy's blend of human drama, corporate intrigue, and classic xenomorph horror creates something versatile and cinematic. I was feeling very pretentious that day, even if it won't satisfy every long-time fan. That was how I wrapped it up in my review up on the website.
I think that's a lovely review.
Are you going to bring it on Cinema Savvy? Are you going to wait until the end and then do a big season?
Okay. So I haven't mapped it out yet. So this isn't me asking you. It's like when I was at the Michael Giacchino concert when they asked, because it's another DC show, but I have a calendar, and I did a tweet today, and context it's Sunday, and I've because I'm working on a project for something we're going to start in November, I've had to now do my 2026 calendar, so I've started blocking in release dates, and I was just this weekend mapping out, okay, what is there between now and the end of the year, and I put in the finale air dates for Peacemaker, for Alien. I absolutely will be doing a spoiler discussion on the season as a whole. But I think a season wrap-up to talk about it in a neat bow. I think because I've already got a big kick after these first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And this is why I miss doing weekly stuff, because I'm not going to get to talk about 2 episodes as much as we have so far. Because they're going to be doing like a 3-hour review. Yeah. But there will be a video. I haven't mapped anything out. I will need to find people that are interested to jump on that video. There could be invitations. There's a lot of TV at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of shows.
I put a poll up across all of our social media to ask what people thought of those first 2 episodes, and actually there wasn't a single person who gave it thumbs down. Everyone that voted gave it a thumbs up. We had a few people that commented. Completed It Pod said Alien Earth is the best thing I've seen from this franchise since the original, which is really high praise. Craig Harlow said, loved it, absolutely got me hooked. Production values of an extremely high standard and the cast is superb. Tone is perfect for the franchise and had me on the edge of my seat. David Higgins said, for the most part, I enjoyed it. Much better than I expected it to be. Just different enough to feel fresh, but familiar enough to feel like it belongs in the franchise. Hopefully they don't mess it up. And our good friend Josh Barton said, thoroughly enjoyed both episodes, the initial setup for the series. Great to see the xenomorph be as lethal as we know it can be. And the other alien creatures are very intriguing. Hyped for the rest of the series. Seems like everyone is loving it, which is really cool to see.
Do you think word of mouth could have a big part of the next few weeks?
I really think word of mouth right now is going to do wonders for this show. It's got an audience already, and I think people are going to talk about it, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we'll have to see if it ends up in the top 10 streaming list. It'll be interesting to see if it ends up charting. It'd be amazing if it does.
The big A again, Andor. Weekly releases made that humongous. It became an event by the time it got into season 1. I think there was a report on Disney recently that Andor's viewership went up 40%. I don't know whether that was season 1 to season 2 or just throughout season 1 and 2. Whereas some of the other shows dropped 16%. And I think Alien's in that one where if it's relatively small, because I don't want to say there's alien fatigue because this isn't a Marvel conversation, but alien films had a bad reputation for a while. And I think Romulus has been that lovely little reach.
Turned it around,
credit where credit's due. Alien Isolation, the game. Take that back. That's done huge for the Alien
Brilliant
series.
game.
And I think, did they say they wouldn't have even done Romulus if it wasn't for that game too? I could be wrong in saying that. But I'd like to think Alien's on the upward trajectory, and that I haven't tweeted about it, I probably should. But I am sat there like people need to see the show. And I think that's also why it's getting Andor comparisons, that it's clearly growing episode by episode. Because I got to episode 1, I was like, oh, it's going to, and now that's a shame. And then it carried on for like another 2 or 3 big sequences. And episode 2, I was like, when it didn't, I was like, oh, gutted, I've got to wait a week. It's the best compliment you can give a TV series.
Speaking of compliments that you can give a TV series, we're now going to talk about Peacemaker Season 2, DC Studios' follow-up to Superman, their first live-action TV series. As I said at the top of this podcast, it's coming to Sky in the UK on August 22nd. If you're in the US, on HBO Max on August the 21st. There isn't really a synopsis for Season 2 because they are pretty cagey about what's going on. So the only thing that they've put out is Season 2 of Peacemaker follows Chris Smith, a.k.a. Peacemaker, played by John Cena, the vigilante superhero, as he struggles to reconcile his past with his newfound sense of purpose while continuing to kick righteous evildoer butt in his misguided quest for peace at any cost. So just to say, we have seen 5 episodes each of Season 2. The first episode will air this week. We can't say too much. There are specific plot points that we've been told that we are not to talk about. This will be a very spoiler-lite kind of, these are our first impressions of this season, because I think we probably both live in fear of James Gunn ninjas coming to take us away if we say too much about this.
It's quite scary. We've just spoke about Alien for 40 minutes in-depth spoilers, and now I've just had to tell my brain do not say a single word.
Yes, I know. This is the thing, because people have now know that I have seen this, which naturally means people are starting to ask me, everyone wants to know about the dance sequence, which is something that we're not allowed to tell you too much about. Although we can, the song is now been announced. It's Foxy Shazam's "Oh Lord," so people know what that is, but we can't tell you about anything you might see in the dance. There are characters we can't talk to you about. There are events that we can't talk to you about. And so this is where you have to go, engage brain. What can I say?
I'm going to make this worse because this. I didn't see a trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, so I know even less that I can say than you.
Wow. Okay.
Because
so I think specific things, this is going to be really funny. If whether you are watching this podcast or listening to us, essentially what's about to happen now is we're going to try and have a conversation about what we're not allowed to talk to you about. So one of the main things that we can't talk about right now isn't even in trailers. And I was very lucky to do the junket for this show this week, and we'll have some written stuff that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks with some of the cast. A particular cast member that I spoke to, who we can't talk about, said that they'd been looking at theories about their character online, and they were amazed because they'd only seen one person actually figure it out because there's so little in the marketing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know.
You can do Superman spoilers, though. He's got no involvement in the show. Sorry, I needed to clarify that. But
yes,
because there has been a discussion, sorry I'm jumping in, that James Gunn spoke this week, that one of the reasons Superman has come online now is because they wanted Superman Online ready for Peacemaker Season 2 to air, which I think is actually correct. Not because Peacemaker has a cameo in Superman, but because
there are some thematic kind of aspects of Superman which carry into this.
yes, but I was also going to add on a business standpoint. Not that I'm a businessman for Warner Brothers. If they drop Superman in the middle of the show's airing run, that might take the attention off Peacemaker for a couple of days. Because a lot of people have been talking about Superman this week because it's on digital. There's documentaries, there's behind the scenes stuff coming out. And I actually think this has lent itself to Peacemaker's marketing campaign very well.
Yeah.
Because everyone's now going to, the review embargo's lifted, we can say.
Yes.
And it's been I think I was in a cinema when it went up, and it was overwhelmingly positive from
100%. It's still, so there are always less TV reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for those who don't pay too much attention to the kind of numbers of reviews, but look at the percentage scores. So I think the last time I looked, there was only 35 reviews for it, which is actually quite high for a TV show. But it's sitting at 100%, which is like there is not a negative review. Great to see, really great to see. I mean, if you now look at the 4 DC Studios projects that are out, so that's Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve documentary, Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker, everything's in the 80s to 90s in terms of the review scores, which is they have to be happy with that given the history of what came before it and how everyone talks about, they have one that reviews well, no one goes to watch it. They have one that reviews badly, people love it. It becomes a cult classic. So to see a kind of parity right now of things are reviewing well, things are being spoken about positively is a nice change of pace for them, which they have to be happy with right now, surely. I
think Warner Brothers are going to be happy. I think audiences, okay, I know we don't classify as the general audience, so if I just do a little bit of not my backstory on Peacemaker.
Yeah, go on, tell us about it, because obviously people know that I am the original DC shill, so they know that I'm probably likely to say that I enjoy it, whether it's actually good or not. But this is actually good. Give us your backstory.
So I had never heard of Peacemaker until Suicide Squad.
That is very fair.
I'm going to just add in now that Suicide Squad is one of my favorite comic book films. James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I know one of them's the other one is just Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
James Gunn's, I think, is just Suicide Squad. And as someone who has, for a consistent amount in their life, been a big fan of wrestling, that's probably the best way of doing it.
Of course.
Seeing a certain John Cena make the transition to Hollywood, following in the footsteps of The Rock, following the footsteps of Dave Bautista, Hulk Hogan to the smallest of extents, so I don't really want to talk about. And even Rowdy Roddy Piper, who was in They Live. There has been a history of wrestlers getting into acting.
Yeah.
But until, I want to say The Rock, I think it's fair to say none of them have been truly successful at acting in terms of a box office draw, in terms of a presence. And then we've had Batista come in after The Rock, who I think is the shining light that he has, thanks to James Gunn. Batista done a few things before Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Guardians is what put him on the trajectory his career's gone. And Dave Bautista is viewed by the industry as an actor, not wrestler turned actor. He is seen as Dave Bautista. He is not ripped like he used to be. He is bulked down and he takes normal acting roles. And he's still huge. He's just not as huge as he was, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And John Cena, who was the face of the business for, let's say, 15 years in a polite way, who, I didn't cheer for when I was a big fan because it was Super Cena. He, hustle, loyalty, respect, the good guy who'd never be evil, all of this stuff. I can't remember if this was before Fast 7, but he'd done a couple of Hollywood films. And I was like, it's cool we got John Cena. I do like John Cena outside of what his character was in wrestling. And I'm happy for certain people who are going to make that career into Hollywood. But at this point in time, a bit of context, the Rock's getting stale in Hollywood. And this is way before Black Adam, by the way. This is a couple of years before Black Adam. So there are things going on The Rock, and there's things going on Batista. Batista has just been cast in Dune. And John Cena comes in Peacemaker. And I can't remember. I'm not going to swear because this is a podcast. I don't know if this poster came out before Suicide Squad. And I use it on my socials. It's a red background. It's a cartoon image of John Cena's face as Peacemaker. And it's,
that's the
Astrocastic CK.
So that was after the Suicide Squad came out when they were announcing Peacemaker was becoming a show. That was the first teaser image to kind of be like Peacemaker's becoming a thing.
That's one of the best teaser posters I've ever seen for something. It is the most simplistic, yet sells everything without any other context. Okay, it's just John Cena's face as a cartoon. but I loved him in Suicide Squad. But I wasn't sat there like, I need a Peacemaker series. Like, I'm really happy for John Cena. That was my honest reaction. I thought it was a phenomenal film.
So great in that role.
He's great in the film. There was a redemption for Rick Flag because he was one of the few carryovers from the Suicide Squads.
Other way around, from Suicide Squad to Suicide Squad.
Yes,
all right,
sorry. And a few of them got carried over.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Nice James Gunn to acknowledge that. Ironically, because he's now carrying over certain things too into a whole new timeline. But when Peacemaker first came out, I didn't watch it straight away. I know it got a shafted UK release, like what many of the Warner Brothers.
Yeah, it was a late one, which is why it's so great that this one's arriving simultaneously. It's good to see it taken seriously like that.
I'd seen a lot of people talking about the show, and word of mouth would come in, and everyone was starting to say, God, John Cena can act. And I was like, not like, what? I was like, I didn't think people would be talking about John Cena in a Batista way.
Regard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, I think it came on quite late. Like, I either binged it just before the finale, like what I was going to do with Alien, or I did it maybe an episode 2 before. And I was really blown away that first season. And I didn't expect a lot from it because it was this character who, quote unquote, died in Suicide Squad. I'm going to keep getting them mixed up. I'm sorry. But there was enough from the performance, from the story, where I leaned towards these characters, and certainly John Cena. And I was just really proud of him. And he's not even someone, he's not my friend. I've never met him. I've not gone to a convention with him. I was just like, you know what? Like, there are good people in Hollywood. There are good people in wrestling. And, I'm not going to do the usual PR like John Cena's got the record for most Make-A-Wish because, like, he legitimately, based off anything I've ever seen or read or videos, etc., he actually seems like a really genuine human, like an actual good person. And I know that that's obviously a representation of what I've seen online, but I do believe that with Cena. And I think someone that was as famous as him, if he wasn't, that stuff would have been out in the open by now. And I was just really happy for him. And his Hollywood career's gone up in turn. And then it was like James Gunn's basically keeping, not Peacemaker alive, but DCU is going to have Peacemaker season 2. And I was like, I'm so happy for John Cena that he survived the DCU. As in, like, the new timeline.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was buzzing at his cameo in Superman. So heading into season 2, I've been really excited. And I hit this point where I didn't actually want to watch the trailer. I don't actively avoid them. It's not come up on an advert. It's not come up online. I'd seen artwork because I had to obviously make thumbnails. And I was just sat there like, I'm excited for the show. I sent a little pitch. I got very lucky. I got 5 episodes. I had a day and a half to watch them all to get over the review. But sorry to go on a long John Cena tangent, but I don't know any comics. I never read a comic. Couldn't tell anything about these characters. But I did watch Creature Commandos. Gosh, like James Gunn's done it again. Like he's took these like freak weirdo characters, given them all development, empathy, and he's done it to Suicide Squad. He's done it to Peacemaker. As in the crew on Peacemaker. He's done it to Creature Commandos. He's done it to Superman and others within Superman. And I'm just sad that like this guy can't miss. Like he did it to Guardians, and he was, there's a whole conversation about the importance of that film, the first one working. But I've been really excited for the series, and I've been excited for it because I want to see John Cena win, and I want to see John Cena be the next Batista. I want to see him because he isn't in a dramatic role as such like Batista, right? Like in stuff like Blade Runner or Dune. But Cena's got something about him where he's got natural charisma.
He's so much of it.
So much of the cast has spoken about his ability to improv, which is so in tune with wrestling because they're on stage, they're in a ring with a microphone. John Cena's always regarded as one of the best ever on the mic. And
I hadn't thought about that.
There are so many things that work. And I just think he is an actor that's so perfectly right for James Gunn's writing. Yeah,
yes. I think that's the key.
And like his non-James Gunn stuff, like I saw that film recently with Idris Elba. Ironically,
I didn't watch that,
I didn't enjoy it as much as others, but I'm sat there like I will go and see a John Cena film because I want Cena to do well. And kind of where I went with the first 5 episodes of this is I'm happy for him. Going in nothing, I think made it a better experience for me overall.
Yeah.
I don't mind saying this. It would look like I'm on Amateur Hour. I forgot to click the link of what I can and can't talk about when I did the review. I think I texted after. I was like, thankfully, I actually didn't talk about anything they'd written down. One of the things I was gobsmacked was on there because I just assumed it's public knowledge. It really wasn't. which also caught me off guard. And some of the other things, because I hadn't seen trailers, I was like, oh, that's not known. Wow, okay. Because I knew there was a multiverse thing going on.
Yes.
And this is where maybe me knowing nothing about the show really comes into its favor. When I think of multiverses now, I think of cameos. I think of how do we get around failed stories from the past, right? How can we not like right the wrongs, but how do we bring Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man? Those sorts of things. Multiverses, I don't want to call them a cop-out. There's a valid place for them. But in comic history, they're very much used for rewriting and rebooting rather than storytelling. What James Gunn has been able to do with this series is continue the story of Peacemaker by introducing the concept of a multiverse. I'll be so careful how I say this, to develop his current characters from the first season. And it sounds so simple like that, but I'm asking for someone to tell me when this has been done before on a project, certainly in recent years where we've got a multiverse saga like Deadpool versus Wolverine. Love the film, enjoyable. Great comedic montage going for the multiverses. It's not developing Deadpool's character. It's certainly not developing Hugh Jackman's character because they're just bringing him back as a different Wolverine from a different timeline, but we wanted Hugh Jackman back. Whereas this Peacemaker is we are continuing the story of Christopher Smith from the first season. And what he has done through storytelling decisions, I think, is excellent. And I'm aware I've spoke for about 10 minutes straight, so I'm handing it over to you before I say something. It's nervous.
There were so many points that I was like, I wanted to say, I think Cena as well steps it up even more this season because he has a lot of dramatic stuff to do as well as the comedy stuff and the improv stuff, and he does that really well. So that was a surprise to me because I'm not a wrestling fan, so I'm like, oh, it's another wrestler that thinks he can act. Way, let's see if this one's any good. And funnily enough, he seems to have landed the role of a lifetime, which he has landed in the position where this character is kind of perfect for the sense of humor and the comedic timing that he has. And he's landed with James Gunn, who seems to know exactly how to write to his strengths. So the two of them together are like dynamite, and it's unbelievably good. Just like, it's so unbelievable how good they are working together and how much it makes you care for this fairly deplorable character surrounded by equally deplorable people in the 11th Street Kids gang. And then this season, this, like you would literally, as you were just saying, I probably couldn't put it any better. Using the multiverse more like you would use a multiverse in comics as a plot point rather than an excuse to wipe something out. Yeah, you suddenly go, hey, here John Cena's character who is struggling with finding his place in the world. Here's a look at an Earth where your life can be 10 million times better. How do you react to that? And then how does that play out? And I love that. I love using the multiverse to say to him, your life is kind of crappy. What are you going to do about it? And then, the things that we can't talk about that happen are the usual kind of James Gunn hijinks that ensue in that kind of situation. But I feel like there's more of the ensemble cast is maybe not used quite as much in those first 5 episodes in this season because there's a little bit more of a focus on Peacemaker. The others are a little bit more in the background, but there's still quite a lot going on for them. And they all still have a lot to do. They just don't necessarily have a mission quite like they did in season 1. This is more of a kind of character portrait of these people who are all very broken, trying to figure out what their place in the world is when there might be multiple versions of people around.
Agreed. I think Jennifer Holland, of the core group, I think is the only one that's actually had, I don't want to say actually had a story. Because I know there's a lot of horrible stuff said about her just because she's married to Gunn, which is just ridiculous. But I like the fact she's been given, because she's popped up in so many DC things.
Mm-hmm.
The first season, they did a good job with her. But in this second season, I felt like, not like the spotlight's on her. I think after Cena,
she's kind of second
Holland.
lead. Yeah, she's so like, and it's my heart bleeds for her.
Yeah, and I think because of, as you mentioned, right, there's a core focus on Cena. Some of us have been sidetracked. I think the one that will disappoint many will be Vigilante.
Yeah, but he doesn't have as much to do, does he, at this point?
Yeah, and I'm really hopeful that by the time, because again, we're going off 5 episodes of 8, and this is where I've got to be so not careful, but this is what I think I spoke about earlier. It's like there's 3 more episodes to see this, and I can't be too gutted at the moment. But at the moment, this is how I'm thinking about this character, given how much of an impact and how involved he was in that first season. The second one is like, oh man, like Freddie Strome is great. He's very funny in this, and he's still funny when he's in this, but I don't think we've had enough of him, and I'm really hoping there's a payoff to that later on.
I feel like the way we leave it, and I'm going to be really careful on my words, I feel like the way we leave it in episode 5 is the moment where all of those 11th Street Kids characters who have been a bit more supporting are becoming the main players again. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more of them in the final 3. What we've seen is their journey up to this point where they've kind of fallen apart. Not fallen apart is the wrong way to put it. They've been a bit fractured after the end of season 1 because they've all gone through this mission with the butterflies. They've saved the world. They've saved humankind. But they've not been rewarded for it, which is not a surprise. That's in the trailer. You kind of see that no one's life has really changed. In fact, they've kind of gotten worse after saving the world. And they're like, where is the adoration here? Why am I not in the Justice Gang? Why are we still so forgotten by the world? And then by the time you get to the end of episode 5, where there is a huge turning point, and that is all I'm going to say, everyone is kind of slightly in a better position, I think, to be more of a lead, and I think we'll see more of that. But Freddie Strome really surprised me with some of his acting in that 5th episode as well, particularly towards the end of that episode. There's a moment which I asked him about at the junket specifically that I was like, my God, man, you really blew me away with that scene. I feel like they all still have really strong parts to play. We're just seeing less of them.
Can I make a completely spoiler and context-free prediction for the last 2 episodes? This probably isn't going to happen, but I feel like the last 2 episodes are going to be like one giant finale. You know how Andor had?
I feel like it's a 3-part finale.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really curious about. Like the way episode 5 ends. Obviously, I'm not saying how it ends, but it's not set up, but it is like strap yourselves in. Like this is about to like. Boom. As you said, right? Other people may get more of a presence, more to do. I'm really excited for that. And I think there's a world of possibilities. You know, this series involves multiverses. I'm not saying beyond the Spider-Verse, like they're going to go into 1,000 portals. No. I'm not saying they're going to go into one portal. No. But they're interested in the multiverse concept, and the cast have spoken in the junkets about, wait till we see how it goes. We're excited to see how it goes. Like, it feels like there's an event coming. That's the better word. An event's coming. And it might just be 3 normal episodes of a big finale, but I sense that the tide is turning, and I'm going to be really excited to get there. And also, to not in a hypocrite, I'm lucky I've seen 5 episodes. I know I always say that. And I was planning on watching Peacemaker weekly, but I am sat there like, okay, I got a 5-week wait now. And the episodes aren't long. Some of them are like 35 minutes. And I just sense that something big's going to happen. I could be completely wrong.
I mean, James Gunn, if you've seen the interview snippet that's going around online, they had a premiere in New York the day of the junket, and he said on the red carpet that he will not even allow his press agent to watch the final 3 episodes. And the other thing that he has said, and I really hope this isn't overhyping it, because if it is, I'll genuinely be disappointed if this is overhyping. But he has said that this season, so not specifically those episodes, but that this season, and I'm presuming he's leaning towards referencing those 3 episodes, set up a lot of what is next to come for the DCU. So make of that what you will.
Excellent. Ezra Miller's Flash. I'm joking. We are safe. Thankfully, they decided to do all that weird stuff back in The Flash. You're looking at you, Nicolas Cage, CJ.
So I think I don't want to. I feel like my comic book knowledge probably tells me too much that I could possibly say things I don't want to say because they'll end up being right.
What I'd like to say. What I'd like to say, and this isn't anything to do with the series actually, so this is me making just a wild DCU prediction. Me and you spoke back on our Superman spoiler discussion, and I kind of said, like, I think I made a comment, like, surely there'll be a Justice League film, and you were very quiet because I did my research after. It was like, oh, there's nothing that's been like officially announced. I know that officially Clayface is next year according to my calendar I've done today. Brave and the Bold is 27 or 2028. There was a weird rumor that Superman's coming out in July 2027.
I don't know where people are getting this from. I know he said that he's written his
happen.
treatment and he wants to get into production sooner rather than later. Because I've also seen that there's randomly a film dated for. Someone said there's a film dated for basically the Friday before International Women's Day 2027, and therefore that is the release of Wonder Woman. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't think so. But what? I mean, I'd love. We're going to get the Superman sequel, but I think at the earliest we're looking at 2028. If I'm totally honest,
Yeah.
In a polite way. What I would like to see, if this is quote unquote, going to set up the future.
Yeah.
I don't need a Thanos vision of all the dead Justice League. I know Creature Commanders did that in a cool way, in a different way, but without jumping the gun and sounding entitled, no pun intended on saying jumping the gun either, but I would like to see DC build toward a Justice League.
Yeah.
I know we've got the Justice Gang, which I love, and I really enjoyed them without knowing much about them in this. I know we've got Lanterns coming out next year. I know we've got Clayface coming out next year. I would like there to be a bit of a, how like Marvel was like, oh, this film series is going well. Let's do an Avengers film. And Iron Man 2 became like the slaughtered lamb to just turn us into the Avengers setup, which doesn't actually set the Avengers as much as you think it does.
Yeah.
I would like to see a bit of storytelling in DC to be like, okay, this is the end goal, not end goal, but like a phase 1 goal. I know it's called, is it Gods and Monsters? He's called the first phase.
Is correct. Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters.
Yes, I'm getting there. I like to see them setting up a pinpoint of this is where we're going to go in chapter 1.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be extreme. It doesn't need to be too setting up-y. I think without jumping the gun on Marvel, they haven't done a good job of setting up Doctor Doom. I'm not going to say the new film's going to bomb, of course, it's not going to its Avengers, but Thanos was a presence on screen for 7 years from a credit scene through to Infinity War. Granted that he wasn't in it a lot, he still had a presence, and it was known, there's the MacGuffins, that's going to be part of a gauntlet, we're going to get there eventually. And they haven't had that in phase 4 onwards. I'd get shot by some people saying that, but they just haven't. There is no strategic storytelling.
There's been no build up towards it. No.
Yeah, and I think Superman has successfully built the in-universe. They've said, it wasn't a standalone film. It was made with the intention of being the first part of a new canon. I'd like to see them aiming to get somewhere. And I don't need to say it's a villain, it's a Justice League, it's this, that, the other. I'd like to see maybe Peacemaker set that up, because I do think, off a prediction, I think James Gunn is going to want Peacemaker. Let's say there is a Justice League, right? And maybe this could even be the season finale. I wouldn't be surprised if Peacemaker is in the Justice Gang or Justice. I don't think he'd be in the Justice League. That seems
he's never been in terms of comics, because he is still supposed to be more of a Deadpool kind of villainous type character.
Just Justice Gang, I could see, and I just want to. I'm not the general audience. I'm a film fan. So sorry, this sounds like I'm making stuff up, but I'm sort of processing this in my head of how I say this. The general audience wants to see, why are we going? What are they building towards? That are questions the audience actually does ask. What are we building towards? What is going to come? Because that gets bums in seats if you have something to build up to that they can then go to themselves. Doomsday hasn't done that, because we're just going to get Doctor Doom rock up next year. And it's fine, because you've got all the Avengers that you know. But I'd like to see, maybe if it's Peacemaker season 2, maybe it's Clayface, something else. We need to see something of where it's going. And that doesn't need to be a cameo. Maybe it is, but I'm just waffling. What would you like to see? Because I'm nervously talking myself out.
I know. Well, yeah, this is the problem when you're trying to not spoil things that you have actually seen. I think that what we're likely to see in these kind of last 3 episodes, building into what is going to come next, is probably going to be a little bit more of what the DCU's multiverse might look like, a little bit more of what is maybe going to be an overarching threat. And I wonder what the events of the final 3 episodes of Peacemaker might do to cause the attention of people or characters who we may not have met yet, that might be paying some attention to what's happening on Earth, or might suddenly prick their ears up when they're like, something's happening over here in this corner of the DCU. I need to go and look at that, and how that might lead into future stories that they might want to tell. So I think it's going to be a case of the big events that happen in those 3 episodes might catch the attention of characters that could become threats down the line. That's where I think it's leading towards. But what I also love about it is somewhat unpredictable, even for someone that kind of has intimate knowledge of the comics at the same time. I'm still not entirely sure where everything is going, which is quite nice. I just love these characters and want to see more of them. And I think even seeing them so broken in this season, it just makes you love them even more, which is what's kind of Frank Grillo said it. God, this sounds so arsey. Frank Grillo said this to me the other day when I was talking to him.
No, it's great. Plug it more.
During
the chat to Frank Grillo.
Yeah. So during the junket, when we were talking to Frank Grillo and Jennifer Holland, he was saying what he loves about this show, and obviously he has been in Creature Commandos, he's been in Superman, he's been in this, so his character has followed through those 3 different perspectives so far. There's 3 different versions of the character in 3 very different projects. He said for this is that it's a family drama. That's what hooks you in, and that's why you come to this show. Everything else, all the superhero stuff, all the weird sci-fi and multiversal craziness is just extra icing on the cake. The reason that you come to it is you love these characters and you love the dysfunctional family and seeing them figure out all their different relationships. And that's why he feels it works so well. And I think it also works so well because the actors have such a wonderful dynamic as well. Like Danielle Brooks is incredible this season because Adebayo becomes a bit of a mother to everyone. And you see her picking up Peacemaker off the floor when something has happened and he needs help. You see her helping Vigilante when he's kind of really struggling with human connection. You see her giving advice to Economos, who's still working at Argus and yet is having to also try and navigate the fact that he feels like he suddenly made the first human connections he's ever made in his life. And, how does he work for Argus when he's also friends with Peacemaker, when you've got someone like Rick Flag Sr., who obviously people will remember that Peacemaker killed his son, Rick Flag Jr., in the Suicide Squad. So the revenge story is a big deal in this season. So you've got Economos stuck in the middle of that. And it's another example of James Gunn's incredible casting. Because I feel like he cast Creature Commandos really well. I feel like he cast Superman really well. And he's just cast this show really well. And there's some great additions this season. You've got Sol Rodriguez, who comes in as Sasha Bordeaux, who's an Argus agent. If you're a comic book fan, she's a love interest for Batman. So make of that what you will as to where her character could go in the DCU after appearing in this show. And you've got Tim Meadows, whose character name I cannot quite remember off the top of my head. But Jesus, he is so funny. He is so funny. I don't even want to say any of the things that he does that are funny because they're spoilers. But he is so funny in this show. Like, he just had me like rolling around on the floor laughing. He is so funny.
And that's for everyone at home. Make sure you stay for the credit scenes because every single episode got a credit scene. And at first you think it's like the old like Pixar like outtakes, but it's not. It's like an extended scene from something or like a different version of a scene.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious every time. I'm so glad you brought Tim Meadows. He's been the funniest person of season 2 for me so far.
I was so gutted because he was supposed to be at the junket, but he's filming something else. And filming overran, so he had to drop out of the junket because he needed to be on set. I was so gutted because I really wanted to talk to him about the amount of improv that he will have done on this set because it's just so funny.
Yeah, it's great to see him. And he doesn't appear in... I always think of the old comedies from the noughties, which I'm so used to seeing him in. And it's great. And I think this is Tasman's James Gunn. Like, I've sadly last few months, like, based on the weird online divides, apparently you've kissed James Gunn's ass or you kiss Zack Snyder's. But I think you could look at, I'm not going to say a lot of actors, but I think you could look at a fair amount of actors' careers and look at their work in James Gunn films, and they have not done projects like that before.
Yeah.
And others may look at those as some of that actor's best work. That's an insane statement to say on the spot. I'm looking at John Cena right now.
Exactly.
I'm laughing because I just thought of King Shark. I was like, yeah, no, Rocky. Just look at James Gunn's, look at the Guardians, right? I'm not saying, it's their biggest thing they've ever done. But I'm like, Chris Pratt, okay, it's Guardians or it's Parks and Rec. It's one or the other. Both is incredible in both. And I just think as a writer-director, he nails his cast. And I think he elevates them. And he elevates their careers in turn. And I think we're seeing that with Peacemaker season 2, with the first season. And what Superman speaks for itself. There wasn't really... The biggest name in that film is Bradley Cooper. And it's a cameo, essentially. And I can't wait to see what else. Even like the Creature Commando stuff, you get some great actors in there doing things you wouldn't expect them to do.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. And I think I really do appreciate his work on film and TV. Certainly, he's found not his niche, but I'm not high and mighty like, oh, don't do a comic book film. I'm not in that mindset. I'm all up for directors doing. If they've got a story they want to tell, I think this is the difference. Is James Gunn has come on and told the stories he wants to tell, and he's going to hire filmmakers that want to tell the stories they want to tell, rather than I need someone to just direct this for me because I'm not going to do it myself. I don't think he's like that. And I think that's going to be the difference. And I don't want to sit here doing a Marvel versus DC thing. But I think, and I've sort of said this to you off the record, I've said it on group chats where I've been sort of petrified. I think within the next 5 years, because I've always said I prefer DC comics to Marvel comics, not films, comics. I think DC has essentially squandered the last 15 years. Not to do with Nolan. Their reaction to the Avengers, Warner Brothers got absolutely everything wrong they could have got wrong. And course correction 10 years later, I think now they're at a point where they might have people wanting to check their stuff out, and the other one is slowly losing that audience, if I can say that.
You can say that. That is your opinion. You are allowed to have an opinion.
I can't wait to read the comments of entirely acceptable people of me making that question.
Well, at that point, let us pause. You can just let the anxiety float away. We will leave Peacemaker there because we have not spoiled anything. I think we have said all that we can say on Peacemaker Season 2 until the whole season is out. I will remind you once more, Episode 1 will premiere in the UK on Sky on August 22nd and in the US on August 21st on HBO Max. We will probably circle back to this once the full season is out and we've seen those final 2 episodes so that we can talk about the whole season and whether it stuck the landing or not. But right now, I think the main thing to take away is we are very excited for both the shows that we've just spoken about, actually. But certainly Peacemaker is a very, very exciting prospect of another really fun story from DC Studios, which is just great to see from them. And that is our episode for this week. So I'm gonna let you take the floor for a second and tell us what is happening on the wonderful Cinema Savvy in the next few weeks. What have you got coming up?
Well, I'm glad I've been talking about Alien and Peacemaker because we've got a spoiler-free Peacemaker review up, but this discussion has been far better than that. That's just myself to camera for 10 minutes, skirting around what I can and can't speak about. There will be, by the time this episode goes up, I will have done a Creature Commandos Season 1 review. I got to it quite late. Let's just blame you can't be able to get it. But I actually do want to have a completed DCU. People haven't subscribed to us in the channel before. Obviously, it's a film and TV channel. We do new releases. We do older stuff. We do retrospectives. There's a big series starting up in November, which I'm gearing on behind the scenes. We've just come out of the busiest blockbuster season since pre-COVID, I'm going to very fairly say.
Yeah.
Where I've had a blast with a lot of the films that have released. But it's nice to be able to take a bit of time out now to start planning it ahead of what is to come. And by doing that, I've been able to map out what do I want to do with this video, that video. There is a series ongoing at the moment on HBO's Harry Potter, for better or worse. I'm just talking about how I'd like to see the books adapted for the screen as I have a knowledge of them that precede modern politics is probably a better way of saying it. And for that series, I am excited for, and I've also reread them all for the first time in almost a decade, which was quite eye-opening. So if you're a fan of that franchise, if you're not, that's absolutely fine. We've got everything else you'd expect, film, TV, Star Wars stuff, as we've mentioned. It's been such a busy summer. What is coming up? I think all the big films have come out until like September, October. Like I was really struggling on the schedules. I did a Nobody 2 review, which I really enjoyed, but I think I need to do a video on the summer blockbuster season because I'm not a nerd of box office numbers, but Superman is now like $6 million off hitting 600 million worldwide.
Yeah.
And it is about to overtake Mission Impossible, which I don't think anyone saw coming either. So there needs to be a wrap up of summer D23s in a few weeks. If there's anything big that comes from that, there'll be maybe a video on it. Seems like it's going to be a quiet D23 this year, though. So I'm not doing the best job at selling the channel, am I? But if you want to find Neil on there, you can. He's been on our decent stuff.
I pop up every now and then.
Yeah. Superman spoiler discussion was a lovely chat. And there's been so much more. There's been Marvel stuff too. We had you on Brave New World back at the start of the year.
Wow,
if you like John Cena, we do wrestling spoiler discussions on the pay-per-views every month. And he's on his retirement run. So we've got a lot more John Cena to come, which is great.
I saw his interview on Jimmy Kimmel.
He had this amazing countdown clock. I think he's down to like 10 now.
Wow.
It will be December the 13th he retires. No one's done it this way. And I love him for it. That most wrestlers, they retire, right? And they always come back. And it's embarrassing. They're always like, we've got one more in us. And it's always really embarrassing to then watch that match too. Cena has said for years and years, when I come back, it will be me being, I say full time, like it will be a long-term thing, and then it'll be done. And that's what this year's been. He's, wow. I think, 37 appearances. He'd had earmarked from January through to December, and he is committed to that and followed that.
Amazing.
And December the 13th is looking like that'll be his retirement. Peacemaker, for some reason, didn't sponsor SummerSlam, and it should have. That was the easiest sponsorship they ever could have pulled. Whether his ego is much politer and doesn't want his character's name in the ring. But someone did an amazing photo. This last thing I'll plug, I'm going to plug my channel. He has these T-shirts, the merchandise, the John Cena merch. Someone photoshopped his traditional merchandise with Peacemaker on it in a red shirt, called The Last Time Is Now, which is a marketing gamble. Oh, wow. I so wish it was real. I'd have bought that shirt in a heartbeat. It looked amazing.
Someone on Etsy will have made it, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it was for sale somewhere. It just wasn't official, but I might get it. But yeah, if you like wrestling, you like John Cena, come over, have a look, and there'll be more videos to come. My mind's gone blank on what films are coming out.
Remind us of your socials, and you are good.
Yes, linktree.com/cinemasavvy. And on there, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky. Whatever you use, we're on there. We do post shorts on Instagram, so you're better off finding us on there. And obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel, where we get to also do shorts on top of big feature-length videos. So, yes, thank you, Neil, for plugging my channel better than even I could. I'm so not used to doing guest appearances.
You are very welcome. As for us, things are quieting down a little bit, like you were saying, after a busy summer. Coming up, our next episode is due to drop the first week of September, so maybe we'll be talking about the Conjuring franchise. I'm not entirely sure. It depends on when we get to see that new film, Last Rites, which is due out, I think, September the 5th. We will have to wait and see. As always, if you want to check out all the latest news, head to our website, which is www.getyourcomiccon.co.uk, where you can find us on social media at Get Your Comic Con. If you are watching on YouTube, I can't speak, apparently. I've lost the power of speech. If you are watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. Let us know if you're excited for Peacemaker or whether you have watched the first episodes of Alien. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please leave us a review. It helps us find new listeners every episode. So until next time, thank you again, George, for joining us, and stay safe, stay well. We'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for watching, Super Friends. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button just down below and hit the bell so that you can get notified whenever we release brand new videos. In fact, there's 2 more waiting for you to watch right here below. So what are you waiting for? Why not click play?